Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're going to be counting down the top 25 films of 2025. These were my favorite films to come out over the past year. So the rankings are completely subjective, and if I missed anything that you guys loved, don't forget to let me know down below in the comments. Give me a couple of reasons why you guys loved those films. Maybe give me your own rankings, your own top 10, your own top 25, your own top 50 if you have it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share with your friends to help boost this channel and the algorithm. And before we get into the list, I want to go over a couple honorable and dishonorable mentions. So for me, 2025 was a pretty weak year for films. There was no Christopher Nolan release. There was no Denis Villeneuve release. Those to me are the two top directors working right now. There was some fantastic directors that came out with new films. Darren Aronofsky came out with a new film. Paul Thomas Anderson came out with a new film. Unfortunately, they weren't the greatest films in the world for me. I'll talk about them in a little bit, but it was kind of a weaker year for films. I'm more excited to talk about my top albums of the year because it was a fantastic year for music. It was a pretty good year for TV shows as well, if you guys saw my top 5 TV shows of 2025. But like I said, a little bit of a weaker year for films. So I'm expecting bigger things in 2026, but there were still some fantastic films that came out over the last year. My list is a little bit weaker. Picks, I'd say 25 to maybe 15, but the top 15, I absolutely recommend all of those films. You guys should go and check them out if you haven't seen any of them. But like I said, I want to go over quickly just a few honorable and dishonorable mentions. The honorable mentions are films that I liked, but they didn't quite make my list. And the dishonorable mentions are films that I did not like, I did not enjoy, and I wish I got my money back. So my honorable mentions today are Fantastic Four and Thunderbolts. I probably would have liked these movies a lot more if they came out a few years ago or if I was a little bit younger today. I'm just at that age now, 25 years old. I grew up with those Marvel movies. You know, Iron Man came out when I was 8. I've been on this Infinity journey, the Infinity Saga, and now Phase 4, Phase 5, or whatever phase we're in. I'm starting to get a little bit lost. There's like too much stuff coming out. Seems like every month there's a new Marvel TV show or a new Marvel movie, and everything just feels watered down. Nothing feels as like refined and perfected like it did before. I don't know. It just seems like everything's getting a little bit watered down. Maybe that's the case, or maybe I'm just falling out of love with it. It could be one. It could be both things. It could be one or the other. But yeah, for me, Fantastic Four, Thunderbolts, I enjoyed them, but probably not as much as I would if I was, maybe 15, 16, 17 years old again. But they were good Marvel shows nonetheless. I've definitely seen weaker Marvel films than that, so I'm sure a lot of you guys did enjoy those films, so I thought I'd mention them quickly. How to Train Your Dragon, I'll also mention real quick because it was a fairly good live-action-y rendition of the original animated film, but I love the original animated film so much. When that came out, I was a kid, so maybe that's again playing into why I didn't so much like the remake. I don't like when Disney remakes all of their animated films into live-action-y films. Yeah, for me, I'd rather see new things. So Zootopia 2, again, it was kind of a recycled idea. We already have Zootopia 1, so we get another one here. It is a pretty good sequel, however, I will say. There are some sequels that I'm going to mention here in a second in my dishonorable mentions list, but Zootopia was a pretty serviceable sequel. I think if you're a younger viewer, or if you still love watching those kids' movies, you're probably going to like Zootopia 2. It was a serviceable, more than serviceable. It was a pretty good sequel. We had K-pop Demon Hunters came out. It was like the most popular film of the year. Again, maybe I'm just too old for this stuff. I don't know what it is, but it didn't click with me, so it's not on my list, but I did watch it, and I can appreciate the animation. It is a beautiful film. I'll probably show it to my kids one day, but it's not really for me. So, Eddington. I love Ari Aster, man. He's one of my favorite directors, but his last couple films have fallen a little flat. I thought Hereditary and Midsommar were two of the best horror films ever made. I thought Beau is Afraid was a very weird film that I maybe enjoyed more than other people, but I could see why it's looked down upon because it's definitely not of the same standard as Hereditary and Midsommar. And then we have Eddington, which is more political, less horror, and getting into some weird territory. I just didn't really vibe with it, so it's on my honorable mentions list. I love Ari Aster. I want him to do more horror, but this one, I just didn't really get it. I don't know. It didn't click for me. So the next one on my list is Black Bag. Fantastic thriller film, but doesn't really take any risks. It's not too out there. It's pretty confined. It stays in its safe lane. It's a fun thriller. If you like Michael Fassbender and you like thrillers, you're probably going to like Black Bag. But for me, it wasn't creative enough. It didn't do enough to quite make it onto my top 25. And my last one that I'll mention for my honorable mentions is Drop. Drop is not a great film, but I went to go see it with my mom, and it was fun. You know, it kept me on the edge of my seat. It was a little bit of a thriller mystery show, very toned down. It kind of all takes place in a restaurant, so it's almost like a bottle film. The acting was okay. It wasn't great, if I'm being honest. It wasn't the greatest acting in the world, but it kept me on the edge of my seat a little bit. You know, I was guessing throughout the film, and it was effective. So for that reason, it lands in the honorable mention spot. But now let's go on to the dishonorable mentions films, the films that did not make my list this year, and for good reason, because I did not like them. Tron Ares. What was that? Why make that film? I mean, I know a lot of people said that when Tron Legacy came out, but Tron Legacy actually landed on its feet, and it actually became kind of a cult classic. Great soundtrack, really cool vibe to it, decent acting too, but Tron Ares is just, I don't know. It's just garbage. I can't get into it at all. I can't care about anything. It's flashy, it's cool, there's great visual effects, but that's all I can say about it. The story's flat and boring and redundant. The acting is phoned in my opinion. I don't know. I didn't really care for it. The next film is Running Man. I don't know what it is about Glenn Powell, but I cannot stomach him for a second. I feel like he's being crammed and shoved down our throats recently, and I don't understand why. I don't find him to be that great of an actor. I don't know why he's being put in everything, or it seems like he's being put in everything these days, and I don't want to just dump on the main actor here. The whole film is just... Why make it? We already have a Running Man film that's pretty good, and the story itself, like the Running Man story, is not like the greatest story in the world. It's probably one of the weaker things Stephen King ever wrote. So I don't really care for this film. It's a fun action film, I guess, but there's not really anything interesting about it. And like I said, I think the lead actor is incredibly boring. I think Glenn Powell is literally one of the most boring, surface level, one-dimensional actors working today. I don't understand why he's being shoved down our throats. But anyways, I also have The Conjuring Last Rites on this list, which sucks. I love the first Conjuring film. I think it's one of the most underrated horror films of all time, and people still love it. Like, it's a still pretty highly rated horror film, but I think it's one of the greats. I think the first Conjuring movie is fantastic. The second one is a pretty good sequel too, but they just kept making them. They just kept getting worse. And there's just so many times you can do the same story and the same scares again. Like, I don't know. I love the chemistry between the two lead actors. I forget their names right now. Vera Farmiga. I can never say her name properly. And I think it's Patrick Wilson. They have tremendous chemistry between the two of them as Ed and Lorraine Warren. And I could probably watch them all day, but not anymore. I think this is it. This is the end of the road for me. I'm glad this is the last film in the Conjuring series, because their chemistry wasn't enough to carry the film in this one. It was just flat and boring, and I don't know. There's not really any other words for it. It just didn't do anything for me. Didn't really scare me. Didn't get under my skin at all. Didn't make me think about anything. Like, it was just kind of a boring sequel. So I'm glad that series is over now. The next 5 films on my dishonorable mentions list, I'm going to go over in very, very quick fashion. I'm not going to talk about them too much because I want to get onto my actual list here. But you're going to notice a pattern here. Nobody 2, Black Phone 2, Happy Gilmore 2, Megan 2, The Accountant 2. I watched all of those films this year, and I don't know why. They were all horrible sequels or remakes or additions that really didn't need to be made. Nobody 2. Why? The first one was fine by itself. You don't need to go further into that universe. It's fine how it is. I don't know. They made a second one, and it's just dumber. Black Phone 2. It was a great horror film by itself. Again, you don't have to repeat the concept. Like, give us something new. Give us something original. Happy Gilmore 2. I know some people liked it because they love the first film and it's one of their favorite comedy films. I'm not the biggest Adam Sandler guy. I don't find him that funny myself. Even though I'm a huge hockey player, even though I grew up watching Happy Gilmore, it's not my favorite comedy film. So the second one really didn't do anything for me. And I'm not the biggest golfer. I don't play golf. I don't really care about it myself. I'm more of a martial arts guy. So maybe if I was into golf, all of the little cameos and references, maybe it would click more for me and I'd find it funnier. But I couldn't really give a crap about it. Megan 2, I don't even want to talk about it. Why make it? And The Accountant 2. Maybe they made it because John Bernthal and Ben Affleck kind of look the same and they're both like grizzly men who can play in an action film, and maybe they thought it was going to work, but I don't know. The first one barely worked. The first Accountant movie barely worked, barely got me interested at all. So the second one, it's just another dumb action film for me. I don't know. I didn't really care about it. So let's get into the films that I actually cared about this year. Let's finally move on to the actual list and count down the top 25 films of 2025. So kicking us off at number 25, I have The Smashing Machine. This was a pretty good movie. It was a little bit too long. They could have cut some fat off of it. What I really liked about it is what I think most people really like about it, the fact that we finally got to see Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson play someone else besides Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in a movie. Every single time this guy goes out and acts in a movie, he's just playing himself. It's so boring. He has no acting diversity, seemed to have no acting talent at all, and then he does a film like this and you go, whoa, the guy can act. Why wasn't he doing this his whole career? What the heck? So it was a great acting performance by Dwayne Johnson. Maybe it's because he's like perfectly suited to play an MMA fighter. That's like the perfect role for him, but he did a fantastic job with it. It kind of reminded me a bit of when Adam Sandler did Uncut Gems. Before that, there was Punch Drunk Love, but not really anything else to base his acting off of. He was just kind of a comedic actor who sometimes gave you a little bit of a sentimental scene, maybe in like Bedtime Stories or something like that. But for the most part, people looked at Adam Sandler as like a B or a C-list actor, really. Like the guy can't really act. Besides Punch Drunk Love, like what have we really seen him in, right? And then he does Uncut Gems, then you go, whoa, this guy's a phenomenal actor. Why hasn't he been doing this his whole career? So I got a little bit of those vibes with The Smashing Machine, but The Smashing Machine as a movie is nowhere near what Uncut Gems is. Uncut Gems is a fantastic thriller movie that makes your palms sweat the entire time you're watching it, whereas The Smashing Machine is just kind of a long, drawn-out biographical film about a fighter that is important. You know, I'm a huge MMA fan. I know my MMA history. I love Mark Kerr, but he's not like the greatest MMA fighter of all time. Like, I feel like there's better people to make films about. I'd rather see a film about George St. Pierre, maybe because I'm Canadian, but I'd rather see a film about Randy Couture or Hoist Gracie or literally anybody else. Like, Mark Kerr, for me, is kind of an average fighter. His career was... There's a lot of losses in his career. His career was up and down because of the steroid use and personal issues, and it's all shown in the film very well. They did a great job showing his life story, but for me, it's just, I don't know. I didn't really care about it that much. That's why it's at the end of my list. There's other MMA films that I like more. For me, Warrior is the best MMA film ever made. I think it will be for a long time. And The Smashing Machine's another great addition to MMA films, but yeah, a little bit long, a little bit drawn out. They definitely could have cut off about 20, maybe even 30 minutes out of the film. I think it was a little bit too long. But moving on, at number 24, I had The Naked Gun. I love the original Naked Gun films. I mean, even the sequels, they kind of get worse with each sequel. The jokes just get more and more ridiculous and the story just falls apart, and then it's just Leslie Nelson just making jokes the whole time. But the first Naked Gun movie is fantastic. It's one of my favorite comedy films of all time. It's so effective. There's so many gags per second. I don't know if there's any film, maybe besides Airplane, that has more jokes per second than the original Naked Gun. And this remake is better than I thought. I was going into it with absolutely zero expectations because I don't think of Liam Neeson as anywhere near the comedic actor that Leslie Nelson was. He was literally the greatest, one of the greatest, if not the greatest comedic actor ever. Like his career, his body of work, Police Squad, everything he's done, he's fantastic. So I went into this film with zero expectations and I was pleasantly surprised that the film worked pretty well. And there was a lot of jokes in there that I found really funny. So I'm happy with it. I know they're probably going to give us a sequel now. I'm not excited about that. But hey, I didn't think Liam Neeson had it in him to be that funny. You know, I've seen him in funny things before. He was pretty funny in Gangs of New York, actually. He had some funny scenes in that movie, and he's done some other comedy films, but this was the first time that I really, really got a crack out of him. So pleasant surprise there. At number 23, I have Ballerina. I wanted to like this film more. I like the John Wick universe, but maybe this explains why I didn't like Ballerina. I'm someone who thinks John Wick 1 is the best film. I know a lot of people think the fourth one is the best one because the action is the best in the fourth. The choreography, all the martial arts sequences, everything's kind of at its most extreme in the fourth movie, and Ballerina carries that out as well. It's a pretty extreme movie. But for me, I like the first John Wick movie because it's more grounded and there's more attachment to the character, and the whole time you're thinking about the dog. By movie 2, 3, and 4, you don't care about the dog anymore at all. It's just John Wick killing people. But in the first film, you have that emotional attachment to the dog and the wife, and there's just more, I don't know, you feel it more when he pops someone in the head or stabs them or something. Like, you just feel it more in that first film. So maybe that's why I didn't care as much for Ballerina. It does build off onto the John Wick universe very well. You know, it adds more characters to it, a little bit more lore and stuff like that. But for me, I'm somebody who champions the first John Wick movie as the greatest, so that's why Ballerina's a little bit lower on my list. But Ana de Armas did a fantastic job with it. I think she did quite a few of her own stunts too, so shout out to her. And John Wick is in it at some points. I don't want to spoil anything, but go check it out. If you like John Wick, I'm sure you'll like it. Moving on from that, I have at number 22, House of Dynamite, which was a film that I had high expectations for going into it. I thought it was going to be a little bit better than it was. That's why it's a bit lower on my list. It's a film about a nuclear bomb going off and how would the government respond to that. And you kind of follow three different stories. And you watch the first one play up all the way to the moment where they have to make the decision to retaliate or not. And then you skip back. And then you watch another person's story lead up to that same moment where they have to make that decision. And then you skip back again. Now, this is very jarring for audiences. This is why a lot of people didn't like the film too much, because you're watching the same movie without getting the satisfaction of that release of like what happened 3 times in a row. And then at the end of the movie, when you finally get, kind of all 3 stories coming together, you get an ending that's a little bit ambiguous. That's a little bit like you kind of get to make up your own mind. And that's not really satisfying for audiences when you do this format. When you do this format where you build out one story to the end, stop, go back to the beginning, build out another story to the end, stop, go back to the beginning, you have to give some sort of like satisfying ending where the viewer feels like, okay, I feel like we figured it out now. Now we know what happened. But it didn't quite work for this film. And it's unfortunate because the cinematography was great. The acting was electrifying. Like everybody in it was like, I don't know, they just kept your heart pounding the way they were acting. Everything about it was so good, except for the way that the story was presented to us. And the ending was just, again, inconclusive. So this film could have been better. I feel like if they maybe thought about it a little bit more, structured the story a little bit better, spent more time in the storyboard room, I don't know, but it was just a little bit off for me. It could have been better, and that one really upsets me because it had potential to be a greater film than it was. But House of Dynamite's a cool film if you're into nuclear war, if you're into military films like that, if you like character dramas, you're probably going to like House of Dynamite. It is a thrilling film, but like I said, the ending just falls a little flat. At number 21, I have The Long Walk, and this is another Stephen King adaptation, and one of the better ones this year, I think. I really liked this film, and I think if it came out 5 or 10 years ago when I was a little bit younger, when I was in my high school days, I would have liked this film a lot more, especially if I went to go see it with my buddies. So if you haven't seen this film and you want a film that you could sit down with some friends and watch, I think this is a great film to watch with friends. It's about a bunch of friends, a bunch of kids who become friends, and then, well, the ending's a little tragic, but I don't want to spoil it for you guys, so I won't talk too much about the ending. But the plot, basically, without spoiling anything, is these kids all get selected, all these boys get selected to do the long walk, and it's a competition where I think the winner they get one wish granted, and you're in a dystopian society where things are pretty tough for the average person. So a lot of kids sign up for it, you get chosen, you get drafted, you go out, you do it, and basically what the long walk is you just walk, and if you stop walking, boom, you're dead. So that's basically the whole plot of the film. the whole film is just watching characters walk, but it's more interesting than you think. It actually holds your attention throughout the whole runtime. At least it did for me. So you have these characters that are starting to bond together. They really want to keep each other in the game, but then they also want to win the game at the same time. So there's all these, different emotions that are bouncing off of each other, different motives, and it's an interesting film, and a heartbreaking one too. So go check it out. If you're interested in Stephen King, if you're interested in kind of concept films, if you're interested in teenage films, coming of age films, stuff like that, I would highly recommend this film. And like I said, it's a great film to watch with friends. If you're gonna watch one film out of all the films that I mentioned today with a bunch of buddies, I would do The Long Walk. It's kind of perfectly made for that. At number 20, I have Mikey 17, which is a new film from Bong Joon-ho. Hopefully I'm saying that right. I had high expectations for this one. Robert Pattinson coming off of that great performance as Batman. Bong Joon-ho, maybe the greatest Korean film director working today. I thought this was going to be a bit better. It unfortunately wasn't. It was kind of disjointed, a little bit all over the place. It's a sci-fi film about clones. So if you're interested in clones and stuff like that, you might find this film a little bit interesting. But for the most part, I think this one's rather skippable. I wanted it to be better, but really the only things that I can point out that are truly great about it are, one, the set designs are beautiful, and just that alone kind of makes you want to live in the world for a little bit. And Robert Pattinson is fantastic as Mikey. He's using this accent that I've never heard him use before, and he's so charismatic and flamboyant and energetic in this film. That it's a new side to Robert Pattinson that I haven't seen before, and it just shows his dynamism when it comes to his acting. He's such a dynamic actor. So Mikey 17, I have at number 20. At number 19, I have a cute little horror film called Together, which I don't think a lot of people have seen, but I think you should go check it out if you're interested in horror films. It's a great date night horror film. If you have a spouse that's interested in horror, this is one to watch together with them. Together is about a couple that starts to meld together. That's all that I want to say about it, because with this film and with quite a few other films on my list today, it's almost better if I don't talk about the plot at all and you guys go in completely blind. Together is one of those films. It has kind of a twist ending, a little bit of a weird ending, so it's better to go into this one blind. It's starring not James Franco, but his brother. What is his brother's name? Dave Franco? I can't remember, but he's fantastic in this. The actress, too, I'll put her name up on screen. She was great in this as well. And it's just a very fun horror film. Is it the scariest film that I'm going to mention today? No, it's not. Is it the best film that I'm going to mention today, the best acted or the best shot or anything like that? No, it's not. But it's effective, and it's well put together, and it's fun. And that's kind of all you need for a good film. So I enjoyed this one quite a bit. Moving on from that, at number 18, I have Companion, which is another great date night movie. I wouldn't say it's as great as Together. I think that one's kind of perfect for couples. But Companion's an also great date night horror film, because you have this guy who's in love with this robot, and then she's becoming conscious, and you're kind of dealing with it's almost like if Her was a horror movie. I don't know if you guys remember that movie Her from a few years ago with Joaquin Phoenix and Scarlett Johansson, where he's talking to this AI and then he's starting to get confused how real she is and how real is he, and all these weird questions are coming into play, and that all kind of comes into play in Companion, but there's a horror element that's added to it, and it's a lot of fun. It's a fun film. It's starring, I can't remember the guy's name. Again, I'm going to throw it up on screen, but he's in The Boys. He seems to be in everything today, but unlike Glenn Powell, I'm actually happy he's in everything, because he's a fun actor. He's got great charisma. He's always funny, and he's a very likable guy. So I like seeing him in films. I think he did a fantastic job with this one. I know he was in another film, I think, called Novocaine. I don't know if that one came out this year, but I didn't get around to seeing that one just yet. It's on my list, but I loved Companion. I thought it was a really fun film, so I have it at number 18. Next up at number 17, I have an interesting one, because I have two films that I'm going to have fill the same spot. I have Predator Badlands and Predator Killer of Killers. Killer of Killers is animated, Badlands is live action, but it was a great year to be a Predator fan. If you're a fan of Predator and you haven't checked these two films out, please do. They're not bad. They're quite good. I actually had a really fun time watching both of them. I think I liked Killer of Killers a little bit more just because the animation was pretty mind-blowing. I think it was a greatly animated film, but what a year to be a Predator fan. We've gotten so many crappy movies since the original, and this is kind of the first year where we've gotten good Predator movies that are really, really solid. Badlands is very exciting. It brings back that nostalgic feel that you had with the first one. And Killer of Killers, like I said, is brilliantly animated and just adds to the universe. So it's a great year to be a Predator fan. It's also a great year to be an Alien fan. You got that Alien TV show that came out. I didn't mention it in my top 5 TV shows. It kind of just missed the list, but it's a great year to be a Predator or an Alien fan. So moving on from that, at number 16, I have No Other Choice, which is a fantastic film directed by Park Chan-wook. I'm so sorry, my Korean viewers. Another phenomenal Korean director. He is so damn talented. He's directed a couple films I think some of you may have seen. The Handmaiden is fantastic. If you guys haven't seen The Handmaiden, I highly, highly recommend it. But that's one of the greatest Korean films, horror films, but just Korean films ever made. And Old Boy. He also directed Old Boy, which I think is one of the most popular Korean films of all time. It's also one of the greatest, obviously. So I highly recommend checking out those two films. No Other Choice is another fantastic film from him. Not quite on the level of those two, but it's still a really, really fun thriller. And if there's one film, I think if there's one film that I mentioned today that it's best to go in with absolutely knowing nothing about the plot, it's No Other Choice. I promise you, you'll be on the edge of your seat. It's a thriller that just grips you from the get-go. It's a really, really good movie, but don't watch any trailers and don't watch anyone else talk about it if you haven't already. Just go into this one blind, and if you like Korean films, this is going to be one of your favorites, I promise you. It's a really, really good film. Moving on from that, we get into our top 15. So at number 15, we have a new film from Darren Aronofsky, one of my favorite directors of all time. He directed films like Black Swan, The Wrestler. He did The Whale a couple years ago, which I actually liked quite a bit. And this time he does a film called Caught Stealing. Now, I liked this film. I thought Austin Butler was very good in it. Not great, but very, very good. I thought everybody else in the film acted terrifically. I thought the story was well written and it kept you on your toes, but there was no emotional weight like his films normally have. If you've watched Aronofsky's films before, especially stuff like Requiem for a Dream, he has a tendency to make films that are very emotionally intense and kind of impact you in a memorable way. And I did not feel that with Caught Stealing at all. Even with The Whale, I felt something there. I felt a weight. And at the end of the film, I felt almost tears coming in my eyes because of that ending. It's kind of a beautiful ending. And you don't get that with Caught Stealing. There's no emotional weight like his other films. And it's very odd. It felt different. It was an effective film, like I said. It's thrilling. The story just keeps going. It's like Good Time, that film with the Safdie brothers and Robert Pattinson from I think 2017. It just kind of starts like very, very fast pace. You're kind of thrown into the action, and then it doesn't really cease until the end. And even at the end, the action's kind of still going in a way. So Caught Stealing is a very, very fun film, but comparing it to Aronofsky's other films, it just doesn't hold up to the rest of his catalog, and that's why it's a little bit lower on my list. And it's sad to see that because I was so excited about a new Aronofsky film. I was so excited about a new Paul Thomas Anderson film, but these great directors let me down a little bit this year, unfortunately. But Caught Stealing, I would still recommend giving it a watch. If you're a fan of Aronofsky, just know you're going to be a little bit let down. But if you're a fan of Austin Butler, expect a really fun movie, because it is a fun movie. Like I said, it's very tightly written, and it's a fun little adventure story. So moving on from that, at number 14, I have Eternity. So Eternity is a cute little film starring Miles Teller and Elizabeth Olsen, which poses a question that I think I've asked myself before, and maybe some of you guys have asked yourself this question before. What if you died and went to heaven, and you got the choice to be with your love of your life, your husband or your wife or whoever you spent your entire life with, or perhaps somebody who was your first love, a lost love. Maybe they passed away very early on in life and you never got to see where that relationship went. In the afterlife, would you spend your time with this person or this person? It's kind of an interesting question, and it's played out in the film Eternity in a very thought-provoking way, I think. I think the acting in this film's great. This film is really funny. It's well acted. It's makes you sad at times. It's the set design is fantastic. The cinematography is great. There's so many great things about this film. The reason why it's not a little bit higher on my list is because maybe some things with the ending could have been done a little bit better. Again, I don't want to spoil this for anyone. This is another film where you should probably go into it blind and not have the ending spoiled for you. So if you watch this film and you get towards the end, you might see why I didn't put it a little bit higher. But still, the concept of the film is very interesting, and that alone demands a watch. And Elizabeth Olsen and Miles Teller do such a great job in the film. I think it makes it a really, really good film. Is it going to win an Oscar? Probably not, but it's a very fun film that you should definitely check out. Next up at number 13, I have Sisu 2, which is one of the only sequels this year that I thoroughly enjoyed. I think the first film I had on my top films of the year a couple years ago. First film, basically just a one-man army show. This old guy goes up against like hundreds of Nazis and just kills them all in the most brutal fashion. There's not really anything deep about the film at all. It's not really intellectual, not really emotionally heavy. There's not really anything to think about with Sisu. It's just what it is on the surface. It's just a guy killing a lot of bad guys, and it's very well done. It's a lot of fun. It keeps you on the edge of your seat the whole time. And the first film, this guy's from, I think, Norway or Finland or something, one of those Scandinavian countries. He kind of takes on the Nazis, but in the second film here, he takes on the Red Army, so he's going the other direction. And it's just so much fun. I kind of want a third film, but they could stop here, and I'd be perfectly happy. If they make a third film that's on the same level, cool. Really, I don't really care with this one, because it's not trying to be anything serious. It's not trying to be anything more than what it is. It's just a one-man army show set in World War II with lots of action, lots of explosions, lots of guns and violence and all of that stuff. It's kind of like what John Wick set out to do, you know, that the first film, like I said earlier in this video, I think the first film did a great job of balancing an emotional story. You kind of, you know, you felt the action a little bit more because you had that dog that passed away, right? You cared about the dog so much in the first one, but the second film, the third film, the fourth film in the John Wick series, those films aren't trying to be anything more than what they are. They're not trying to sell you on some fake stuff that, you know, this is some super intellectual movie that you got to think about. This is just an action film. It's just supposed to be fun. And Sisu 2 is a perfect representation of that. And if you like those kind of films, you're going to love Sisu 2. So moving on from that, at number 12, I have Weapons, which is a really fun horror film. A horror film that you should probably go into blind. But I don't know. I watched the trailer for this one and I got really, really excited about it. It has that young actress. Again, I'll probably throw her name up on screen, but she was in Ozark and she did a great job in that show. And now she got kind of a bigger role here in Weapons. And it's a really, really fun horror film. The whole film kind of keeps you on the edge. You're kind of guessing at what's going on, which I like. I like that mystery throughout the horror film. But at the end, you get a satisfying ending, unlike any other horror film I've ever seen. It's probably the most satisfying ending I've ever seen to a horror film. And that's not a good thing. That's why it's a little bit lower on my list. That's why it's not, you know, in my top 5 or something like that. You don't want a satisfying ending when it comes to a horror film. You want some mystery. You want a little bit of unresolvedness or something at least bleak and devastating at the end of it. The reason why The Shining is so effective is because by the end of it, you're going, wait, what happened? I don't understand anything. I got to rewatch it now. What just happened? What was I just shown in that last photograph, right? Horror films that do that for you are more effective, I think. When a horror film perfectly wraps things up and puts a little bow on it at the end and you feel like everything's solved, it doesn't stick with you. It doesn't linger. And Weapons never lingered with me. I felt like satisfied at the end of it. In fact, at the end of the film, I was just laughing. So I hope that doesn't give away the ending to you guys at all, but it's a satisfying ending, which is, again, not good for a horror film, but it's a really, really fun film. I highly recommend Weapons. It's one of the most interesting, unique horror films, not just of the year, but I've ever seen in my life. And speaking of super unique horror films, Guillermo del Toro gave us a new rendition of Frankenstein this year, which is my number 11 pick. I love Guillermo del Toro. I love the worlds that he builds. For me, him and Tim Burton are kind of the masters of goth. They capture the gothic world in film better than anybody else. And Guillermo del Toro did a fantastic job here with Frankenstein, building a world that felt so real, so mystical, gothic, of course, but just ethereal and out there, and it felt like you were in the book. Like, not so much that the film was super accurate to what's in the book. I know some people are having some contentions with that, the things that he's changed in his film that differ from the book, but I really feel like you're stepping into a storybook. Any kind of storybook when you watch a Guillermo del Toro film, and especially Frankenstein. He just builds worlds so well. He spends so much time on designing the sets and making sure the costumes are right, and this guy's just got a fantastic mind, and he did a great job with Frankenstein. Oscar Isaac was fantastic in this. He played a great Dr. Frankenstein. I forget who plays the actual monster, but he did a great job too. And this film was the most human, I think, Frankenstein film that I've seen so far. Some of the other Frankenstein films, they're a little gimmicky. They're very early, right? The 1930s Universal films, they're very crude and not really horrifying anymore, at least to today's audience. Maybe they were back then. But a lot of the Frankenstein films past those early ones have been kind of joke movies. They've been mostly comedies and stuff like that. So it's a character that's hard to do well and hard to make actually scary. We've gotten a couple people taking a stab at it in the last 25 years or so. None of them have really worked out. I think this has been the best one kind of since the original Frankenstein film. So that's saying a lot. There's been a lot of Frankenstein renditions over the years, and this is one of the strongest ones yet. It does change some things from the book. I don't want to point those things out in today's video because I don't want to spoil anything for you guys, but maybe one day I'll do a compare and contrast video. But it changes some things. So if you're a big fan of the book, if you're a stickler for accuracy, you might not enjoy some of the choices that he made, but I think overall he did a great job at conveying the message and the themes behind the Frankenstein story, at least for me. At least when I read the book, I got certain things out of it that I think Guillermo del Toro definitely put in his movie and did well. So I liked Frankenstein. I have it at number 11. Let's move on now to the top 10. At number 10, I have a film that holds its position based almost solely on one performance. Not completely. There's some fantastic performances in this film outside of the main one, but Nuremberg was a fantastic film that I was not expecting to like as much as I did. I'm someone who goes around all the time and says, if you like World War II films, you got to watch Judgment at Nuremberg because so many people haven't seen it. So many people have seen Saving Private Ryan, Schindler's List. They've seen all of those great films, but they haven't seen Judgment at Nuremberg. It's probably because it's a black and white film and it's 3 hours long and it's a courtroom drama. There's not a lot of action in it. That's probably the reason why people skip over it, but it's seriously one of the greatest war films, one of the greatest films ever made. Judgment at Nuremberg is fantastic, and I didn't think making a film like this was going to be able to replace it, and it doesn't. Nuremberg does not replace Judgment at Nuremberg. Judgment at Nuremberg is the superior film. I think it always will be, but what Nuremberg has that Judgment at Nuremberg doesn't have is a phenomenal acting performance for the character, or the real-life person, I should say, of Hermann Goering. Now, Goering is one of the most interesting Nazis to study and learn about. He was commander of the Luftwaffe, and he was an eccentric personality. He had lots of interesting things about him. He was a little bit of a playboy. He had a very rich taste. You can go and look at photos of some of his art collections or the homes that he used to stay in. He's a very interesting character, and he's somebody that I know a lot about because I've read quite a few biographies on him. Goering is a character in history who I've studied quite a bit, so I feel like I have some authority on judging the accuracy of this portrayal, and I think Russell Crowe did a fantastic job with him. I think he studied him so well. You got so many tiny little details perfect, and I'm so proud of Russell Crowe. I know I don't really have anywhere to be proud from, but I'm so grateful for that performance. This guy he's been one of my favorite actors since I was a little kid. Since the first time I saw Gladiator, I was obsessed with Russell Crowe. I was like, that guy's my favorite actor. I want to go see his star at the Hollywood Walk of Fame when I was 10, went to Hollywood, and I was like, oh, there's Russell Crowe. He's always been one of my favorite actors because he seriously cares about the roles that he plays. He studies the characters. If he's playing a historical character, he studies them. He puts so much effort into just refining everything, making sure everything's perfect. And he did such a great job here with Goering in Nuremberg. And so many other actors were great in this too. Michael Shannon did a great job. Rami Malek was phenomenal. But they were all outshined by Russell Crowe because he was just that fantastic in this movie. I think you could watch this movie just for that acting performance alone. You don't even have to care about the Nuremberg trials or World War II at all. You can just watch this film just for that singular performance. And it's quite mind-blowing. I think for me, it's the best acting performance of the entire year. The film that I'll mention next has another great acting performance that's maybe in contention for it, but for me, the greatest acting performance of all of 2025 was Russell Crowe as Hermann Goering. It was a fantastic portrayal, and the film does do a good job at showing the Nuremberg trial, showing the different dynamics of it, showing how the different prosecutors had their different styles and how they worked off of each other. It got a lot of things very accurate. If you guys want some recommendations for books to read about Nuremberg, you guys can let me know down below in the comments, and I'll try to get around to answering that and give you guys a couple recommendations. Something I think a lot of people should learn about and read about. It's kind of the first time evil was ever put on trial on a world scale. Is the first time that we as a planet went, hey, this is wrong. Before that, before all human history, it was just, well, we did this thing and we think it's fine and this state thinks it's bad and who really cares? Like, nobody really came together and decided what evil was before the Nuremberg trials. It was the first time that the world kind of had to agree on a line that we don't cross. So it's a very, very interesting subject to learn about. I highly recommend you guys go deeper down that rabbit hole if you're interested in it. But yeah, I have Nuremberg at number 10. Moving on to number 9, I have Train Dreams, which is a Netflix original film that I really, really liked. I went into it with no expectations. I had no idea what the film was going to be about. It stars Joel Edgerton. I hope I'm saying his name right. I share a birthday with him. We're both born on June 23rd. I hope I'm saying his name right. Edgerton. He is fantastic in this film. And honestly, if there's one other performance this year that I think was, next to or at least close to Russell Crowe's performance as Goering, I think it's Joel in Train Dreams. He did such a fantastic job showing just not a historical character or anything like that. This film, I should say, is based on a short novella, I believe. I haven't read it myself yet, but I am very interested in reading it now. But this isn't based on any historical character or anything like that. It's just trying to show you a man who's going through a tough life, who deals with suffering, who deals with loss, who deals with decay. I don't want to spoil the film for anybody, so it's best to go into this one blind, just like I did. But it's an emotionally weighty film. It's a little bit slow, but the cinematography is so damn beautiful. If you just focus on that for a second, I promise you, this is not a boring film. I don't think it's boring at all. It is slow, and it is, it's melancholic, I guess, at times, and it leans more on the visuals, I would say, rather than the dialogue and stuff like that. There's not a lot of action in the film or anything like that, but there's a lot happening. There's a lot happening in this film, and it's behind glances, it's behind subtle gestures, it's reading between the lines of the dialogue. There's so much nuance to this film. I want to rewatch it many, many times, and I might eventually do a film analysis for this film. I think it's a deep enough film that I could probably give you guys a full analysis video for it. It's fantastic. I really, really liked Train Dreams. I wish I could put it higher on my list, but there were some films that I enjoyed just a little bit more. Like at number 8, where I have Bring Her Back, which is one of my favorite horror films of the year and one of my favorites of all time. It's very, very effective. It's one of the only horror films this year that really bothered me and made me feel very uncomfortable at points in the film. I don't want to, again, I know I've said this so many times throughout this video, but I do not want to spoil this one for anybody. Please don't watch a trailer. Don't read anything about this film. This one is another one. You really want to go into this one blind, because there are some twists and turns towards the end that are shocking and emotionally impacting, and if you just go into it blind, it's gonna hit the hardest. So definitely do that. It's kind of a classic horror film. There's not really anything too interesting about it conceptually. A lot of the themes and ideas within it have been done before. It's just the way that this film was all brought together. The acting performances from the children, the older lady in the film. I can't remember all these actors' names, I apologize, but it just all comes together and makes a very, very effective horror film, and it's very tight. There's not really any plot holes, there's not really any wasted scenes, there's no filler or anything like that, and the whole film keeps its intensity throughout the entire runtime. The entire time you're, clenching your fists going, oh, what's going to happen next? So those are the best horror films to watch. So I have Bring Her Back at number 8. At number 7, I have Knives Out. Dead Man Wake Up, or I think that's the one that this one's called. Last one was Glass Onion, and then the first one I don't think had a subtitle, but the first one is still my favorite for sure. I still think the first Knives Out is definitely the best one, but it's surprising to me that both of the sequels, the Glass Onion and this one, have been very good. They haven't really dropped too much in quality. I think they're a little bit looser and they take a few more risks, but maybe that's a good thing. Maybe they'll age better with time than the first one. But for me, the first one's just so tightly knit. It's just perfect. There's no plot holes. There's no risks being taken really for the most part. Everything's just kind of controlled and well put together. And I really like some of the acting performances in the first one. So maybe that's why I keep it as the best. But I think Dead Man Wake Up is, I would probably put it second. I think I liked it a little bit more than Glass Onion. It kind of plays off of this priest who dies, but then it's like, how did he die, or did he die? Knives Out, if you've seen the first one or the first two, you know it's best to go into it blind. You don't want all the twists and turns and all the different things spoiled for you, right? So go into this one blind again. I'm sorry, I wish I could give you guys more information on what the plot is about. Just know it's about some priests. It touches on the Catholic Church a little bit, so if that offends you, maybe stay clear of it, but I'm a Catholic and I didn't find any problem watching this film. I thought it was a blast. I had a lot of fun with it. Daniel Craig is so charismatic as the lead detective in all of the films, but especially in this one, man. He's so charismatic. He's such a fun character to watch. I really, really like watching him on screen. And yeah, it's just a really, really fun murder mystery. Like I said, go into it blind. You don't want all those twists and turns and reverse endings and all that stuff spoiled for you. So just go into it blind and have fun with it. And at number 6, I have another super, super fun film. It was another film kind of like The Conjuring that closes out the saga, closes out a long history of filmmaking here. It's, of course, Mission Impossible. It's the last one. Final Reckoning. It's finally over. I say that, but it kind of makes me sad because these films have been coming out since before I was born. I remember watching the first 2 or 3 actually with my dad when I was really, really little. And then I remember when Ghost Protocol came out, seeing that in theaters and then seeing everyone after that in theaters. And these films are so exciting. They're so exhilarating. They're kind of like, what's the film I mentioned earlier? Ballerina or something, or Sisu. They don't really try to fool you. They don't try to be a deeper film than what they are. They're just fun. They're just trying to be the most fun films they possibly can be. And sometimes when that's done well, they make for really, really good movies. So this film, though, is not perfect. I would say still, I think the best Mission Impossible film is the first one. I just think the story is the tightest. They don't go too crazy with things. Some of the later Mission Impossible films, there are sequences that play out and you go, well, that's just so disconnected from reality. It almost feels like I'm watching a Marvel movie. Now, it didn't happen too much with the Mission Impossible films. I'd say another franchise that did this to way too much of an extreme was Fast and Furious. Past film like 5 or 6, they just get so ludicrous. You're like, this is just Marvel with cars. Like, this is not really anything grounded in reality anymore. Whereas Mission Impossible finds a way to keep it grounded in reality. And even with this one, this is the most extreme plot ever. It's so extreme that it's almost laughable, but it finds a way to work. It's very bare bones. It's very minimum. It's very straightforward, and there's not really any complexity to the plot at all. And another thing that I don't like about this film, but some people might like, is that there's a lot of fan service. Looking back at the old films, going like, look at where we came, look at all the stuff we did. They do it at the very beginning of the movie, they do it at the very end of the movie, and you don't necessarily want to put that stuff in the movie. It can be like a post-credit scene, but it kind of just takes me out of the film when we're looking back at all the old films going like, wow, look at where we came, look at all these films that we made. Because now it doesn't almost feel like a story. It feels like you're showing me the past films. I don't know if that makes any sense, but for me it was a little bit jarring. Really, what made this film great was not the acting. It was not even so much the action sequences. It was the big sequences, the Mission Impossible sequences. And there's 2 of them in this film. I can kind of spoil them for you guys. I won't spoil how they end, but I can kind of spoil what they are because it's not really much of a spoiler. But there's 2 big scenes in this film that kind of fill out the entire film, and they're what makes the film work. They're what makes the film so much fun. And the first one is an underwater sequence that is insane. I don't know how they filmed it. I gotta watch some behind the scenes stuff because it is insane what they pulled off with the underwater sequence with the submarines and stuff. If you've seen the film, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, my God, watch the film just for that sequence. And then the end sequence. It might even top the submarine sequence. When Tom Cruise is out here in the sky, climbing between propeller planes, some of the craziest stunts I've ever seen in any movie ever. Like, Tom Cruise is at the point now where we could almost put him above Jackie Chan. I don't want to do that because Jackie Chan is like the GOAT. He's the ultimate legend when it comes to doing your own stunts. Jackie Chan is the god. But Tom Cruise, after this movie, he's like neck and neck right now because that end scene with the propeller planes, holy, that was intense. And he's doing that. He's like there doing that. He's not getting somebody to come in and swap in with him, some stunt double. He's not getting them to do CGI to kind of work around it. He's actually doing these sequences, and it is mind-blowing. So those two big sequences are kind of what makes the film what it is. Besides that, there's some hand fighting, some martial arts stuff. It's whatever. John Wick does that stuff better anyways. There's some acting in the film. There's some, oh no, we're all going to die stuff, but it's so redundant. You've seen it like 7 other times with the other films, so they don't really lean too hard on that. What they lean hard on is what makes these films great, and that's those big sequences, the Mission Impossible sequences, and these are the 2 biggest sequences out of all the films, so they really ended the whole franchise with a bang, and that's awesome. I love to see that. It was so much fun watching this film. I'll probably watch it a couple times. I'll definitely watch it with my son one day when I have a boy, so yeah, this was just so much fun. I loved Mission Impossible. It's all wrapped up now. It's a little sad to see, but they did it perfectly. Now, all the films are really solid. I think besides maybe like the second or third film, I think it's the second film that's a little bit weaker than the rest, but they're all really solid films. So that franchise comes to a close, and we now move into my top 5. So at number 5, I have the best iteration of Superman I think we've ever gotten. I love Smallville, but that's a TV show. I'm talking movies here. I don't think we've ever gotten a Superman movie this good ever. Man of Steel was better than people say. I think it gets overhated. I think it's actually a kind of fun film, but morally towards the end, it doesn't really feel like Superman, and the Snyder effects, just the way he shoots films are very dark and gloomy. He's more suited for Batman, I think. But I do like Man of Steel. And the original films with Christopher Reeves, love Christopher Reeves. Fantastic guy, but those films, they didn't age that great. The first one is kind of watchable, but 2, 3, and especially 4, my God, what even is 4? It's completely unwatchable. This film, though, this new Superman with James Gunn, I think it's the best rendition we've ever gotten from him. He's fun, he's lively, he's joking throughout the films, which is great. You love to see a little bit of humor from Superman. I know he's not the funniest guy in the comic books, but he does crack jokes from time to time here and there. He just feels like Superman in this film. And I know he feels a little bit weaker maybe than what he could be, but we're seeing Superman at his beginnings here, right? We're seeing him kind of build up and build up and build up, and hopefully he's more and more powerful in the coming films. But he feels like Superman in these films. He feels like a good guy. He feels like a solid character, someone who you can look up to, someone who's always good. Whenever I read comic books growing up, Superman was always that character that you could look up to, almost like God or Jesus. Like he was like the perfect one. Like everybody else has their little flaws here and there, and Batman's super dark and moody, and maybe Aquaman has some problems or whatever it might be, but you always look at Superman as like the perfect guy, like the leading light. And in this film, I think they just displayed that perfectly. I think the whole film was a lot of fun. I think Lex Luthor was all right. I like to see him a little bit meaner, a little bit older, a little bit more grounded, I guess, a little bit more planning and deceptive, not as silly and cartoonish as he was in this film. So that would probably be my only complaint with Superman, is that Lex Luthor was played a little bit more cartoonish than what I would like. But I just thought that this was such a fun film. You got to see Supergirl, you got to see the dog, of course, you got to see so many cool characters throughout this film, and the action sequences were very well done. I think what he did with the camera there, I forget exactly what he did, but he changed the ratio, and it really felt like you were flying with Superman, whereas in the Man of Steel movies, it almost feels like you're detached from the action. In the James Gunn Superman, you feel like you're flying with him. You feel like you're right there in the action, like watching it. as an observer in the action rather than watching it outside and watching a screen. I don't know if that makes any sense. Somebody could probably explain that better than I can, but I just think he did such a fantastic job with Superman, and I can't wait to see more Superman films in the future, because it's a character that for a long time there was kind of underutilized, and he should be one of the top superheroes. He should be one of the top selling superheroes. He should always be that, because it's like Batman, Spider-Man, Superman. Those are the top three most selling comic book characters of all time. And for a while there, we were kind of not getting much from Superman. We got the Man of Steel movie, but it didn't really feel like Superman. And we're just kind of looking back at those days in the 70s, like, are we ever going to get a film like that again? And we finally do. We get a really fun Superman movie here in 2025, and I enjoyed it so much. So I have that at number 5. And at number 4, I have another film that's just fun. It's not nuanced or deep or emotional or trying to be anything more than just entertainment. It's, of course, F1. I had so much fun with this film. I've been a big F1 fan for the last 5-6 years. I've kind of gotten interested in following the storylines, knowing who the drivers are. I know some of the technical jargon now. I know how the races work. And I've watched enough of it to kind of have enough expertise to say this is a very accurate movie when it comes to showing F1 driving. They put cameras on real F1 cars. I think they filmed some real races too, and that's in the film. You see some real drivers throughout the film, which is also cool. I think Max Verstappen's in there and a couple others. It's just a really, really fun film. Just from start to finish. The plot, super simple. I'm not really spoiling anything for you guys. You got this American cowboy who does NASCAR, who's got to come over to Europe where the prestige is so much higher and F1's so much more difficult than NASCAR. He's got to come over and try to race these cars in his old age and try to win the season, and the season's running out, and are they going to be able to do it? And he's got this young driver who's also European, who he's kind of clashing with. So you got the old man, young man jokes kind of going off of each other. You got the American, European jokes kind of going off of each other. So that was all fun. Brad Pitt's charisma is just, oh man, you just can't keep your eyes off of him. Not just because of the charisma, but I'm sure for the ladies too. How can a man look that good at 60? It's unfair. You just can't keep your eyes off of him. He's so charismatic in this film. Really, that's the word to use. He's a ball of energy, a ball of fun, and you just have such a fun time with this film. Like I said, the plot is nothing crazy. It doesn't go off in any weird directions. It's pretty predictable. You know exactly how the film's going to end when it starts, but it's just a lot of fun. The soundtrack's great. That's another thing that I would point out. The soundtrack is one that I've come back to quite a bit. I've listened to quite a few songs off of that soundtrack, and the cinematography's great. You know, all the action sequences with the cars, like I said, besides being super realistic, they're also thrilling and entertaining. And I just liked F1 a little bit more than Superman. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I'm a big F1 fan. I won't tell you guys who my favorite driver or make is, because I think a lot of people don't like Red Bull or Verstappen anymore. They want to see someone else win, and someone else finally did win this year, which is good. But I like seeing greatness. I want to see Max Verstappen become the best driver of all time. Maybe it's because he's my age. Maybe it's because I didn't grow up really watching F1. I wasn't a big fan of Lewis Hamilton when I was young. I don't know what it is, but Verstappen's my guy. I love that kid. I love watching F1, and I loved watching the F1 movie. So moving on to our top 3. And at number 3, I have Sinners, which is one of the most unique, interesting, and creative films that I've seen all year. And I'm so happy we got a new type of horror film, something that we haven't really seen before. I'm not going to spoil the ending for you guys. I'm not going to spoil too much of the plot because, again, with this film in particular, it's best to go in blind and not knowing anything about it. I'm sure a lot of people have already seen this film. It was a pretty popular film this year. Michael B. Jordan, of course, plays 2 characters. He plays a set of twins, so that's really interesting. That's difficult to do because you got to play 2 characters with a little bit of differences, but they have to be very similar, right? They're twins, so they have to be very, very similar. You have to play them almost the same, but with enough difference that you can distinguish the 2 of them. It's very difficult. It seems easier than it is, and I think Michael B. Jordan did a fantastic job in doing it. There's been other actors who have done that in other films in the past. This is not the first time it's been done, but I think Michael B. Jordan did a fantastic job at acting in this film, and I think the film itself was so damn interesting. It was so unique. The story is something that I've never seen done before. And the action all throughout, all of the scares, all of the build-up, all of the the big scene at the end, which again, I'm not going to spoil for you guys, but it's a big concluding scene. All of it is so entertaining, so explosive, and man, it was such a fun film to watch. And I was, again, on the edge of my seat the entire time, kind of guessing at who's the bad guy, who's the good guy. And now the show is about vampires. It's not too much of a spoiler to say that, but this is one of the better vampire shows that I've ever seen in my life. I don't usually like that genre. You know, it's done great when it's a good Dracula film or Nosferatu, but outside of like Interview with a Vampire and a couple other films, most vampire films fall pretty flat because they're trying to reuse recycled ideas in new ways, and it doesn't always work well. It's very hard to do something that's already been done greatly, before. Like the Dracula film, the Nosferatu film, the originals I'm talking about, they're so great, they're so well done that it's hard to take that and remix it into something that's better. But I think Sinners does hold up as one of the greatest vampire films ever made. And it does do a lot of things very interesting, very differently than those other films that I just mentioned. And yeah, I love seeing unique and original ideas on screen, and Sinners is the epitome of that. There's only a couple films that I liked more than it, and we'll move on to the next one, which is the most unique and creative film that I've seen all year, the most out there. And of course, it couldn't have come from any other director than, hold on, let me pull up his name here. Yorgos Lanthimos. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It is a Greek name. Maybe some of my Greek viewers can help me out pronouncing that one, but he is one of my favorite directors working today. He is so damn unique. He has basically no inspirations, or if he does, they're not visible in any of his films. They're so original. And this one that he released in 2025, Begonia, starring Emma Stone, is it's bizarre. It's very, very bizarre. I'm going to give you guys a thin, very, very thin explanation of what the plot is here without spoiling anything, because this one you really want to go into blind. Two conspiracy-obsessed young men kidnap the high-powered CEO of a major company, convinced that she is an alien intent on destroying planet Earth. That's all you need to know about it. Just go in just with that. Don't even watch the trailer. And it is hilarious. Jesse Plemons, I believe, plays one of the conspiracy theorists who kidnaps Emma Stone's character, and he is great in this film. He's great in everything he's been in since Breaking Bad. I love Jesse Plemons. And this film's weird because the entire film, you really don't know if the Emma Stone character is an alien or if she's a human. And the whole time you're kind of going back and forth. And that's such a weird concept to play with. I don't know any other film where the entire time, maybe The Thing, maybe that's one of them, but I don't know many films where the entire time you're kind of guessing like, is the character an alien or are they a human? Like, that's such a drastic thing to flip between. You'd think you'd know if one of your main characters is a human or an alien while you're watching the movie, but the whole time you're like, I don't know. I'm kind of going back and forth on the whole thing. So it's beautifully shot. Obviously, Yorgos Lanthimos always brings tremendous cinematography to his films. It's very well acted, and like I said, it's so damn weird, unique, interesting, original. For all of those reasons, for just how unique it was, it has to be this high on my list, because no other film this year took this many risks, and it does work. This film works very well. Now, I don't know if it's the greatest film he's ever made. I think Poor Things, which came out a couple years ago, I covered that film in my top films of 2023. I do like Poor Things a little bit better. The Killing of a Sacred Deer is one of my favorite horror films of all time. I like that one a little bit better. The Lobster is also fantastic, but I think I like Begonia a little bit more than The Lobster. And Dogtooth is kind of like his first big, like what the F movie that he ever made. That one is also fantastic. If you haven't seen Dogtooth, I find a lot of people have seen The Lobster, Killing of a Sacred Deer, Poor Things. But if you haven't gotten around to Dogtooth, which is one of his earlier films, please go watch that one, because it's kind of the most messed up of all of them. It's the darkest film that he's made so far, for sure. So yeah, I love Yorgos Lanthimos with this film. He is he's definitely solidifying himself as one of my favorite directors of all time now. You know, a couple years ago, he only had maybe 3 or 4 films that I'd seen by him, and now there's like 6 or 7 that I really, really love that he's done. So he's just a fantastic director, and he seems to get better and better every year. Even though I said that I think Poor Things is a better film than Begonia, I still think he took more risks with this one. He went even further into the deep end of weirdness with Begonia, and I hope he does even more things with the next one. I hope he just gets weirder and weirder and weirder, because I love his films. They're so unique. They're so original. Nobody else is making films like him. So I have Begonia at number 2. So before I reveal to you guys what my number 1 favorite film of 2025 was, I want to mention 2 things really quickly. One is I did not see Marty Supreme this year. I did not get around to it in time. It came out very close to the end of the year. It's in theaters right now, but I did not get a chance to see it before making this list. I know if I saw it with who's in it and with who directed it, I am almost certain it would be in my top 5. So maybe when I see that film, I'll make a quick little video for you guys, kind of giving you guys my thoughts on it, if you guys would like that. But I did not see Marty Supreme in time, and I feel bad about it because, like I said, I'm almost certain that that would be one of my favorite films of 2025. Another film that I think I should probably mention shortly here, because I think a lot of people are suspecting it to be my number 1, but it is not. It did not make my list at all. It is One Battle After Another by Paul Thomas Anderson. I love Paul Thomas Anderson. I mentioned Punch Drunk Love earlier when we were talking about Adam Sandler. I love that film. It's one of my favorite romance films of all time. There Will Be Blood is one of my favorite films of all time, period. It's a lot of people's favorite films of all time. It is so amazing. Obviously, we can gush about the acting performance by Daniel Day-Lewis. It might be the best acting performance of all time in that film. It is tremendous. I can't wait to do a film analysis video for that film. I want to do one for Magnolia. I want to do one for so many Paul Thomas Anderson films because he's such a fantastic director, but I did not get One Day After Another. Maybe I have to rewatch it. Maybe in a few years I'll understand it. I don't know, but it did not click for me. I don't understand why it's getting good reviews. I don't understand why people are gushing about it. I think it's one of the weakest acting performances I've ever seen out of Leonardo DiCaprio. And I just think the whole film was disjointed. It didn't know what it wanted to say. Politically, it was all over the place. And I just didn't get where the story wanted to take us, where it wanted to go. Who were the good guys and who were the bad guys? There were no clear morals in the film. There were no characters that I could really attach myself to and say, well, I can identify with that character. Like it was a film that maybe just wasn't for me. I don't know. Maybe some of you guys feel the same way, or maybe you feel completely different and that was your favorite film of the year. That's totally fine. If that was your favorite film of 2025, I'm happy for you. I wish I liked that film, but I didn't understand it. I didn't get it. I didn't like it at all. So it's not my number 1 film of the year. My number 1 film of the year is a film that might surprise some people, because I don't think on its surface or objectively, or however you want to say it, I don't think it's technically the greatest film of the year, but it was my favorite film of 2025 by far. It's the only film that I rewatched throughout the year, and it's a film that I will rewatch many, many times. It's directed by one of my favorite directors working today, Alex Garland, and it's Warfare. Now, Warfare is a pretty stripped down movie. You're basically just following a Navy SEAL platoon in Iraq while they, almost in real time, deal with a very hairy situation. They're basically surrounded. They're enclosed by a lot of people who want to kill them, and they got to find a way out of it. And the way the film is shot, the way the film plays out, is really what I loved about it. It feels like a horror film. And because you're in a war, it's real. It's not like there's ghosts or there's demons or there's vampires. You're just dealing with human beings being human beings. And for me, sometimes those are the most effective horror films ever made. I do consider Warfare to be a horror film because I was gripping my seat, clenching my toes, and sweating the entire time I was watching it. It was the most intense film experience I had all year. Another film that does, real world horror fantastic is Come and See. I often champion that as one of the greatest horror films I've ever seen in my life. I think it's the most effective anti-war film ever made, and there's no ghosts or ghouls or zombies in it. It's just human beings being human beings. And in Warfare, it was similar in ways. Not so much in that what you're seeing people do evil to one another, but you're seeing horrible violence take place, and in great detail. Like some of the scenes where people are getting shot up and things are looking pretty bad, they're very intense because you're seeing it in real time. Like, it's not, you're not cutting around, you're not cutting to different scenes in the movie. You're in this house with this platoon and you stay there. It's almost like a bottle film. Like, you stay there, you're in the action, you're with them, you don't leave them, and it's very effective. And you're hearing the screams, you're hearing things in the background. All the sounds are very loud and explosive, especially this show of force when they take the planes down and just do a flyby over top. You know, the whole freaking movie theater was shaking when I first watched it. And all of that stuff just brings an element of realism to this film, that you really feel like you're there with the soldiers fighting out a skirmish, fighting out a little battle in this tiny little house, and things are blowing up around you. People are dying. You had this character who you kind of liked earlier, and now he looks like he might not make it. And you're just so stressed out when you're watching this film. And I haven't seen a film all year, and I can't recall a time where I've seen a film that made me feel this anxious while I was watching it, made me feel this uptight and nervous. Like, it was, I don't know. I don't know if maybe some veterans can speak to it. If there's anybody who's fought or served their country watching my videos, maybe you can relate to this. Maybe you watch this and you can maybe get a little PTSD from it. I don't know. Maybe that's the case. It does a great job of making you feel like you're there. And maybe somebody else can speak to that better than I can. But man, what an effective film, and just an engaging ride, like from the very get-go. I mean, not from the very first scene. The very first scene's kind of funny. I was not expecting the film to open like that. If you've seen the film, you know what I'm talking about. But you open it up, and the soldiers are watching Call on Me, the music video, and kind of jamming out to that. And it kind of builds a little bit of, rapport. You're kind of like one of the guys in that first scene. You're like, you're waiting for the music to build up, and you're like, yeah, call on me. And you just kind of bond with them for a second there, and that's kind of enough. And then you're thrown into this chaos right away. And then from the next scene all the way to the end, it's just chaos, and you're just on the edge of your seat. Like I said, just I don't know. This film was the most effective film for me all year. Maybe it's because I'm super obsessed with military history and learning about war and stuff like that. I love war films. Maybe that's why it's so high on my list. But for me, personally, that was my favorite film of the year. But you guys probably have different favorites. So I want you guys to let me know down below in the comments, what was your favorite film of 2025? Give me a couple of reasons why you loved those films. Maybe give me your top 10, your top 15, 25, 50, 100. I don't know if anybody's seen 100 films that came out in 2025, but whatever you want to leave down below in the comments. I love reading that stuff from you guys, and I'll get around to answering them when I can. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share with your friends to help boost this channel and the algorithm. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, it means the absolute world to me. I'll catch you guys, I guess, next January with my top films of 2026. Hopefully it's a little bit of a better year in films. I'm certain it will be, because we're getting Dune Part 3 and Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey next year, so there'll be lots to talk about in next year's video. But thank you guys so much for watching. As always, like I said, means the absolute world to me. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.